Good morning, welcome to another video. It is the last Saturday of the river season. Don't normally come out at the weekend, but I've made an exception today because, as I say, it's the last weekend, the last Saturday of the season. Plus, also, it's due to chuck it down with the rain tomorrow, and I think that's going to have all the rivers up again. And we might have a very damp squib, pun intended, at the end of the season. So I've come out to a familiar stretch. Just thought I'd have one last go in here before, as I say, before the end of the season. I've baited up 4 or 5 swims. I had a walk down. There's one other guy on the stretch just setting up. He's setting up in one peg. Got all this sort of match type gear. And there's another guy, I think, just pulled up. There's a van just arrived as well. So we'll have to just see exactly what we can do. Obviously, we'll have to be courteous to other anglers, and if they've set up in pegs, then obviously that's their prerogative. But the pegs I tend to, or the swims I tend to bait, tend to be not pegs anyway, not the actual match pegs, so we should be all right. Now, being the weekend, this place is like Crufts. I thought Crufts was on in Birmingham at the moment, but apparently not, it's down here. I've passed about at least half a dozen dog walkers, and I've walked about half a mile. So there you go. Now, another reason I came out was because it was lovely and overcast. However, of course, the second I get my gear out of the car, the sun comes out, so as usual. Anyway, we'll have a go down here. Baits for today are going to be, of course, my old faithful mash bread. I've got bread for the hook. I've got some worms as well, but I think we're going to go bread and mashed bread and see if we can catch some chub and maybe some roach as well. Who knows? I had a bit of a change up on the gear front. I normally use my Stour power mesh when I come to this stretch. What I've done today is I've brought out my Drennan Ultralight mini feeder. I've set this at 10 foot. You can set this at 9 or 10 foot. I've set this at 10 foot so we can get that extra bit of reach. Morning, because chub will be trying to get under our feet like they always do. As you can see, the sun's come out. The second I get to the river bank, I've not even started fishing. I've coupled with that my Stour Ninja LT 2000 reel. I'll stick all the information on all the line and everything down in the description. There's a link up there to how I tie my standard running ledger rig. It's very adjustable. I'll link you in up there and in the description as well how I tie this up. Right, enough waffle. Let's get cracking, shall we? And what I've done is added a little bit of condensed milk to my mash bread because it's like started to like putting a bit of flavour in it, a bit of extra flavour. So yeah, it seems to be working quite well. Now, as you can probably hear, it's blowing a gale and it's very bitey wind as well. It's an easterly, hence me being all wrapped up. Although with this sun now out, I feel a bit overdressed. Anyway, there really is enough waffle. Let's crack on, shall we? So a little Preston plug it feeder with some mashed bread in it. A bit of bread on the hook and we'll get going. Now, it was supposed to brighten up today, but it was supposed to brighten up about 11 o'clock. It is now 8:30. So, big shout out once again to the Met Office. Right, so what we can do, shall we? Have a bit of fun with the old ultralight, getting a bit of a beating, hopefully. I think this swim shall henceforth be known as the rugby ball swim, for obvious reasons. I think fishing the cover is going to be the way to go today. Especially now the sun's come out with this river relatively clear. This is about as clear as it ever gets. We've only just baited this soon, so we'll give it 15 minutes in here before we think about a move. I think what we'll do, we'll have this cast, and if nothing happens, we'll put a little bit of bait in, we'll nip to a swim not far away, and then come back. I think perhaps these fish just need a few minutes to settle over this bait without me casting in. We've had a couple of inquiries, seem to be being a little bit cagey. But while we spent 10 or 15 minutes in here, those swims, or a couple of swims just out, upstream from here, will just have been settling as well. Yeah, let's do that. Let's let this settle. I think it will be to our long-term benefit. We'll let this settle down in here. So, to the confluence swim, which has been kind to me recently. See if it wants to continue in the same vein. Just a little brook there running in to the river, as you can see. It's just a tiny little brook. It's just more of a runoff between fields really than a brook. I think with the rivers having been so high for so long, there's been so much lovely food coming down that little confluence for the fish. All sorts of, you know, bugs and worms and all sorts of everything getting washed in. They tend to sit in here. Right, check that over there under that tree somewhere. Try that. Donk. The sun is very annoying right in our eyes. Let's see what we can do. Just getting the rod tip up here because there's quite a bit of flow under our feet. Just to get the line out of that, so we can hold over there with just 20 grams. Just cherry picked a few swims this morning. Just swims that I've produced in the past, because I've only got sort of 2 or 3 hours. 3 hours really, realistically, before I need to go. There's definitely some small fish over there. I think we can safely say that. Rattling away. Well, if we have a fish or two just this morning, I'll be happy choppy, I think. I'm certainly not going to bag up looking at how it's fishing it for the first sort of 15-20 minutes. The swim does fish better though when there's been some water on. As I say, lots of stuff washing down there. Whenever I've fished it in the past, which is sort of 2 or 3 times, there's been a bit of water on, or we're just coming off some high water. But at the moment, it's river's just dropping. And as I say, relatively low at the moment. So it may be that there's not any fish hanging around in here. Well, the rattly bites have stopped. Maybe that means something big has turned up. Tap. There we go. Oh, hello, he's off. Blimey. Well, I was just thinking what we've got to do to get a bite. Spin comes good again. Fantastic. It's a reasonable fish as well. Blimey. Just trudging. It's just plotting. God, he does feel a nice fish. I've not seen him yet. But he's not doing a lot. He's just, as I say, just trudging round. Oh, here's a nice fish. A quick glimpse of him then. He saw me and thought, no thanks, mate. Oh, he's a nice fish. God, I just nicked him in the corner of the mouth. Fab. We're off to a good start. Well, how's about that one to start with? Absolutely wonderful. He's a cracker. He's a good £3, definitely, all day long. Absolutely wonderful. That's fantastic. Right, we will give it another 5 minutes, but I say I've fished in this swim 3 times now, and I've only ever had 1 bite in it. So we'll give it another 5, because you never know. We'll just keep him down there in the net. We can rest him up, or we see if we can winkle another fish out. Put a good old bend in the ultralight, didn't he? Cracking. But yes, we only just nicked him in the corner of the mouth. We were lucky there. Makes it for the last session. If you saw the last video where I lost a really nice fish, annoyingly. Right, as I say, we'll give it 5, but I've only ever before had 1 bite in this swim. I fished it on the float and on the ledger. Oh, that sun is in exactly the wrong place. Well, I said, didn't I? All the little tippy-tappy bites have stopped. Perhaps something big's turned up, and it would seem that have been the case. It shows you though, doesn't it? You don't always have to find the cover. I really thought we'd need to find cover today. I didn't think this swim was going to produce. We took 10 minutes or so. I was just getting to the point where I was starting to think about moving. But it's quite a good sign if you're having lots of taps and rattles on the bait from smaller fish, and then suddenly it stops. Can be an indication that a bigger fish has moved in, pushed them away. I mean, obviously it's no good if it's a pike, but clearly in this instance it was a chub. No, that's it. I can stare at the sun no more. Let's get back to that original swim. I'll get this fella back. He's been in there for just 5 minutes or so. Go on, off you go. That's not very graceful. Go on. Right, let's get back to that original spot and see if there's any fish in there. Got over that bait. Right, next up, another swim which is often good for a bite. Not the biggest chub in here, but it's hugely good for a bite. And today, I tell you what, it's in the wind. Blimey. Had a bit of sweat on earlier when that sun came out, and I was sitting there with it baking on my back. The sun's now gone in, which is a good thing. The wind's picking up, and blimey, it's cutting me in half. Right, as you can see, we've got that bit of cover over there. I know from experience it's relatively deep under there. It's a good 6 foot, probably near at 7 or 8. Right, let's see. Firstly, if 20 grams will hold over there, if we get the rod up in the air. Like I say, it's blowing though, so who knows? Oh, covered in mud and mashed bread, of course. Hopefully, we can have a bite in here. I'd say usually, see, often good for a bite, not always, but often. We're just a little bit short on that cast. We could have probably gone another 1 or 2 foot further. We'll leave it for now. Not really an ideal rod to be fishing in the wind with the tip in the air. A little bit too sensitive for that. I just thought with there being not too much flow on, it'd be nice to use it. Not used it much this year with the river's been banging through all the time. Seem to have lurched from one flood to the next. Alright, the sun's coming back. Alright, that's a bit of interest. Yeah, I think we get some interest in here. That looks very chubby to me. Just gentle little taps. There we go. As suspected, not the biggest chub in the world. Oh, blimey. Very erratic. Come on, out. Still putting a heck of a scrap. Oh, he's a nice fish actually, that's why. Oh, trying to get under the net. God, that's a conker. Whoa. What was I saying about usually catching smaller fish in here? That's a proper one. Blimey. Wow. Well, how's about that? Another cracking fish. That's another good 3-pounder. Wonderful stuff. Well, we're having a wonderful morning. Absolutely fantastic. Right, same drill. We'll get him in the edge, see if we can have another one. Well, it's turning into a cracking morning. Absolutely wonderful. The stamp of fish has been cracking as well. Really nice fish. It really did feel like a small fish at first. I think it's partially my expectation making me think it was a small fish. Plus he was sort of jagging about like small fish do. That previous fish we had was just trudging about, wasn't it? That one, yeah, he was properly sort of head shakes when he was out there. It made me think he was a little one. Till I saw him. Well, another 5 or 10 minutes in here. I've actually just baited a spot just along here as I came to this swim. Just a little bit downstream, I just dropped some bait in. The spot always looks nice, but I don't know, whenever I've sort of fished there in the past, which admittedly is only once or twice, never so much as had a bite. We tend to find swims like that, don't you? I don't know if you're the same. Some swims look absolutely cracking and they never do a bite, and other swims don't look anything at all. And they're fairly reliable. We'll just have another 5 in here. Another 5 minutes. See if he's down there with his big brother. I think the way this is fishing today, it's not fishing great. Although obviously we've had a couple of fish, a couple of nice fish, but it's not going crazy. It's, as I said to that chap this morning, it's too low. It's too low to be going crazy. Makes the fishing much easier, but it doesn't make it more productive. He wants about that much more water on, and a bit more colour. It'd be a lot more productive. But like I say, I've been a bit picky. You know, the sun is out, it's very low. We've had 2 cracking fish, so you know, I certainly can't complain. Right, no other signs. We've got other swims to have a go at, so we don't need to thrash any swims. As I say, we'll get down just to this next swim down here, I think. I'll just have another quick look at this fella. He's a cracking fish. Certainly pushing 3.5 pound, I'd say. Lovely winter condition. Right, let's get him straight back. That's a bit more graceful. Off you go, chap. Fab. Right, let's get along here for 5 minutes. Just see if we can get a bite in this lovely looking swim by some tree roots. So, another swim that's often good for a bite. That fallen tree across there tends to hold some chub generally. I'll say very much cherry picking the swims today. Given that we haven't got too long, and probably going to be my last session down here of the season, and probably for about 9 months, I would say. I tend to fish this river in the summer. It's very overgrown with sort of weed. There are not that many places to fish, plus also when the rivers are low, historically in the summer, it barely moves, to be honest. It's almost stagnant. Right, bit of a tricky cast in here. I'm going to sort of flick this out sideways across under the trees. Not easy with a soft rod. Ooh, he says, and then lands it bang on the money. Bit of depth under there, a bit of flow going under there as well. Hopefully, extend this landing net a bit. Hopefully you can have a bite or two. Sometimes good for a number of fish in here. Sometimes you could do with slightly stiffer rod in this swim. You'll probably see the tips pulled right round. It's just the flow that is doing that. We've got the flow coming in, and it runs basically across that far side. We've got a bit of a pull, bit of a back eddy in here. As you can see, it's pulling the tip round rather. We'll soon know if we get a bite though. Again, we'll give it 10 or 15 minutes. That's long enough to know. It's probably been a couple of hours since we baited this swim. So the fish would have had a bit of a munch, if there's any here. We'll just switch them on to the fact there's a bit more food about with the feeder. Alright, that was a tap. Definite bit of interest. Tips drop right back, look. Yep, there we go. No, we missed it. Somehow. Well, he's mugged us. That's alright. A fish. Okay, let's see if we can convert the bites into fish on the bank. Once again, as I often do, I'm hedging my bets a bit with the size of my hook, as there are some nice roach in this river. Not that it's in any way roach conditions. The river's too clear. The sun is too sunny. But you just never know. As I always say, I'd rather miss a few chub bites and catch some of the cracking roach that are in this river. We're in. Doesn't feel very big, but we're in. It's going to be a chublet. It's not, it's a nice roach, look. Oh, I thought I was getting some funny tappy bites. I was saying about it not being roach conditions. That's a nice roach. Wonderful. And with fish like that in the river, that's why I fish a small hook. That's absolutely cracking. Wonderful. No monster at all, but certainly a fish I'd rather catch than not. In these very unroachy conditions as well. I wonder if we can winkle another one out. We'll get him down here. This deep margin. We'll just see if we can, as I say, see if we can winkle another one out. Now, of course, when there's fish like that about, obviously it pays to have the ultralight because it's got a lovely fine tip, as I mentioned earlier. And, you know, you can read the bites a lot better, although it is a bit tricky in the swim, admittedly, because there's a bit of flow. I think we'll have another 5 or 10 minutes in here. Certainly getting a few bites in that one spot. I can't imagine they were all off that one fish, but you never know. Certainly seems to be some depth there. We're going to give it another few minutes anyway. Certainly if there's some roach around, I wouldn't imagine he's on his own. It's the first time I've ever caught a roach from a swim as well. Always learning, I have to remember this. No, nothing else doing in there. Too many swims to have a go at to sit around in one swim. We've had that lovely roach out of there. Let's get him back and we'll get moved. Cracking fish. Off you go, chap. There you go. There it goes. Wonderful. Right, we'll get further off down. Or upstream, I should say. Right, another swim where I sometimes do alright in. Bit of a raft down there, as you can see. Sometimes good for a bite, sometimes not. Very comfortable to sit without falling in the river. Something which I have never done. Don't want to tempt fate, but right, again, that's another swim that's not particularly suitable for the ultralight, but we'll cope. It'll be all right. Just a bit of flow pushing under that raft. So just drop the feeder in upstream of it and just let it go under with the current. I've got about 18 inches between the feeder, perhaps a foot between the feeder and the bait. Might lengthen that perhaps. Bit of a tricky cast there because there's a lot of overhanging branches, but that's just run under there nicely. Right, now this has been baited for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Oh, there's a kestrel, I think, making that noise. Yeah, we've baited for about 2.5 to 3 hours now, this swim. A kestrel up there. I think it's a kestrel. It's a bit silhouetted against the sky. And that's definitely a chainsaw. Kestrels to the left of me, chainsaws to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle by the raft catching the chub. Definitely getting some knocks. Sure you can see that. Looks like smaller fish though. As I say, it's a little bit hard to read with it, with the tip round that far. It's where you can do with a slightly stiffer rod and a sort of 1.5 inch quiver tip. They look like small fish bites to me. Very fast, rapid yanks on the tip. Buzzards now. 2 of them, I assume a pair. Oh, and a kite as well. Blimey. Buzzards, kite and a kestrel. the same swim. Right, I think what I'm going to do is get this rod up a little bit. Let's get a bit of line out the water. Just a bit. Try and get a little bit less pressure on the quiver tip. I'd like to put a bit of a longer tail on here, but it's going to make casting even more tricky through these branches. Just going to let that run down with the flow. Right, we'll just get that up a little bit, just a bit. Like I say, we'll just get that. Just get it a little bit of line out of the water. Just going to sprinkle a few wet bits of mashed bread in upstream, just get a bit of smell going under there. Yeah, these are not little fish bites. It's bad to say. God blimey. He's determined to get back onto that raft. God blimey. What a scrap. Oh, we're made it out of immediate danger. Cracking. Another nice chub by the looks of it. Right under our feet, of course. There's some roots by my feet, got to be a bit careful. God, he's another nice fish. Come on. Oh, got him. Cracking. Well, another absolutely cracking fish. Another one pushing £3, I would think. There's about that. Absolutely cracking. Wonderful stuff. All right, belly on him. Belly like me. Wonderful. Right. And that was very quick in here. So I think we might even winkle out another bite. You never know. Worth a go. I'll get this fella down here. See what we can do. All right. No. Oh, I was just about to move then. That was very sort of roachy looking bite, that was. Possibly dace. Just tap, 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 tap. No, nothing else doing that. We'll move just, I don't know, maybe 20 metres upstream. There's another nice swim we can have a go at. We'll call that the last one. We'll get this fella back. Lovely stamp of fish today. Another cracker. Right, chap, off you go. Go and have your freedom. There he goes. Foot down, vanishes. Well, we've been getting loads and loads of tappy rattly bites in here, like that. I was just about to say they've stopped, but clearly they haven't. I think that means there's nothing of any size in here. Tappy rattly bites usually stop when you got some big fish on the scene. I think it's just a bit too low for this swim, and a bit too low and a bit too clear. No, that's it. I'm going to call it a day there. There are clearly a lot of fish in this swim. I think since I've cast in, I've given it a good 20 minutes in there, probably a bit longer. And since I've cast in about every 15 or 20 seconds, I've had a bite. Just a rally bite. Clearly a lot of small fish in that swim. It used to have a nice raft there, but it's got cleared out in the last floods. So that may be something to do with why there's no, there just certainly doesn't seem to be any chub under there. But certainly can't complain. It's been an absolutely cracking session. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I've really enjoyed that. If this morning when I arrived, you'd have offered me 3 good chub like that and a nice roach as well, I'd have snatched your hand off. It's been really, really enjoyable. And it's nice to come down here again before the end of the season. I think that will probably be the last session down here, but it all depends on this rain tomorrow. If it chucks it down tomorrow, the Avon is going to come up and be unfishable. This will come up, but it might get down again in time to do some fishing on here again for the end of the season. As with the other tributaries, we'll just have to play it by ear. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Tight lines, enjoy your own angling. Many thanks to the channel patrons for your fantastic support. And I'll see you again very soon.